Well, Flash also has some other vector tools inside of it, and we've already seen some of the rectangle drawing tools and line tools and even the pen tool. But here now we're going to be talking about the text tool. So you'll notice if you select the text tool, what you can do with that text tool is to just click and drag to create an area of text. Now there is a difference between clicking and dragging to add some text. So you'll notice if I was to type something out like hello world, as I just did, you'll notice that as the text fills in the area that I've just defined, because that area was constrained, because I clicked and dragged, it caused the text to wrap around this text box. If I, on the other hand, just clicked on the stage and just started typing out a bunch of words, you'll notice that it doesn't wrap. And that is something that you'll find with all Adobe products, is that there's area text where you click and drag to create an area of text that you wish to define, or you can just click once and just start typing out text. So area text is probably the one that you're going to be using a whole lot more as well. So we can switch around. I'm just going to Control Z to undo some of those. And as you can see in our area of text that we have here, you'll notice also that there is a little square. So that square can help us to define exactly how big this area of text is going to be and what we want it to look like. Now, in terms of getting your text to look the way you want it to, what I'm going to do is open up the Properties window, as I've just done right here. And in doing so, you can see that we've got the text area. Now, this text is defined as static text. You'll notice that there are two other types of text, dynamic text and input text. However, you're only going to use dynamic text and input text if you are using ActionScript. And since this first Flash video is dealing primarily with the use of text with regards to animation, I would definitely recommend that you keep your text as static text. So when we're working in this fashion, you can see that you can choose any kind of character that you wish from your list, whatever your list happens to be. And for example, I could change this to any other kind of text, just as I've done here. You can change the size of the text. You can scroll it. Anytime you see little dots underneath something, that allows you to just scroll back and forth, or you can click on it and you can enter in any kind of text value you want. Letter spacing, on the other hand, here, let me just get this back to normal. Letter spacing, on the other hand, determines, as you might imagine, the space between your letters, just like that. So you can create what's referred to in the design industry, and anytime you're using typography, letter spacing is often referred to as tracking. And as we can see here, the letter spacing set to a negative tracking, and that squeezes in your text a little bit closer together, or you can, spread your text out a little bit more depending on what you need. And of course, you can choose color. Now, as far as some of the other effects, you can see here that you can make your text field be selectable. We don't really have any other options at the moment, and that's simply because, well, certainly you could try to show one of these things, but they don't work. Well, right now, that's because we can render text as HTML, but only if it's dynamic text. And we can put a border around text if it's dynamic, or if it's input text. Input text is kind of like, a text field that you would allow users to enter in information. So sometimes you need a border around that so they can actually see where to do just that. So this text can also be set to Superscript, as you can see here, or perhaps it's more appropriate if I did it to just, a selection. There you go. So just a portion of it becomes superscripted, or subscripted, if you had quotations or something like that. So for example, if I were to put the number 1 here, I could subscript the number 1 so that it looks something like that, more like a quotation of sorts. And yeah, so there's also the possibility of formatting this through the use of paragraphs. So you can center your text, you can align it to the right, you could even create justified text if you wish. You can create spacing at the beginning of your text so that your text is always indented. Here, I'm just going to set it to left again, and I'll put that back to 0. You can also see that there are some other options that are available to you. Line spacing determines how much space between each of those lines. So for example, I could come in here and continue writing something like spacing lines in Flash. And you'll notice that if I were to select all of this, we can increase the line spacing so that there's more space between those lines, or less space if you want things sort of overlapping each other, closer together. All of these things really useful when you're dealing with design issues and stuff like that. So margins on either side, left or right. All of these things can help in terms of what you want to be doing. And there's also orientation. You can change the orientation from horizontal to vertical, left and right. And as you can see, not really much going on here when we do something like that. Although I'm just going to move this out of the way so we can see that a little bit better. So as you can see, the hello world text is really not responding all that well to this. But nevertheless, as you can see, we could change the orientation of that text so that it was not in that regard. If I wanted to rotate it, check it out. As you can see here, I can just move that text and put it onto its side, however you want that to look. I'm going to change the letter spacing back to 0, so hopefully we can read that a little bit better. And as you can see, Flash is written everything in that direction. And again, of course, you could arrange and align those things a little bit differently. If it's vertical right to left, you can see that's more appropriate to what we generally would want to be working for. And as you can see here, hello world is right at the top. And also let's set this back to its original of 2. And you can see a little bit better as to what that would look like. So it's a little easier to read in that regard. But nevertheless, as you can see here, we're probably just going to be working with horizontal text as we would normally be doing. And once you choose the selection tool, you can take that text and you can move it around anywhere you want and work with it. Another thing, you can select just a portion of text and you can change the color just as I've done. Fairly easy to do and really not that tricky to work with.